you talk about the different academic approaches that you use with your engagement with the anthology of the text that we call the Bible. And you mentioned a couple that I'm not familiar with. So hopefully you can tell us and our listeners about cognitive linguistics and the cognitive science of religion, and how those intersect with the historical critical method that you tend to use.
Yeah, those are two approaches that I wasn't familiar with when I started as an undergrad. It was really during my second master's degree at Trinity Western University. I wanted to write my master's thesis on the development of monotheism. And as I kind of tried to lay the groundwork, I realized I wasn't really happy with the scholarship I was finding on how we understand what a God is in the Bible. And I happened to be at Trinity Western University, which is associated with the Canada Institute of Linguistics. It's in lovely British Columbia, just outside of Vancouver, in a little town called Langley. And I had a friend who was a linguist who was like, oh, you should check out some of this stuff on prototype theory and cognitive linguistics. And this is a field that brings the insights of the cognitive sciences to bear on how we understand the nature, the origin, the function of communication, of human language. And so I was kind of digging into something I had never heard of before. It was very new to me, but I found that it was, one, very intuitive, but also had immense explanatory power, more so than I had seen on other approaches to how we understand the languages that we find in the Bible. And so when it comes to things like categorization, how do we distinguish a God from not God? Prototype theory really helps us to take seriously a lot of the nuances, a lot of the shades of gray, a lot of the different contours of how human language works, and I think provides a much more accurate accounting of how people use the words that they do to try to categorize things. And so that was my introduction to the cognitive sciences, was through cognitive linguistics and my work on my first master's degree. But I stumbled across, in doing all that research, references to the cognitive science of religion. And that's what I decided I wanted to get more into that for my doctoral dissertation, which ended up being on concepts of deity in the Hebrew Bible, as well as divine agency and divine images and things like that. And the cognitive science of religion does something very similar to cognitive linguistics. It brings the insights and the methods and the theories of the cognitive sciences to bear on the question of the nature, the origin, the function of this thing that we label religion. And there was a lot of research related to ritual. There was a lot of research related to how we conceptualize deities, where these ideas come from, why they persevere, how they spread, and how they change. And this was just, again, an opportunity to discover an entirely new approach to understanding the Bible. And I'm not the first one who has ever applied these frameworks to the Bible, but I think I'm the first to do so for these particular research questions related to what deity is and how deity functions in the Bible. And so that was pretty exciting, but it was also a little nerve-wracking, because sometimes when you're a student, you kind of want to go a little off the well-tread path, but not too far off. You want to stay close to safety. And it felt like I was kind of blazing a new path and was making a lot of mistakes along the way. And there was nothing there for me to kind of use as a point of reference, because there were not people who had applied these methodologies to the Bible before. But it was still an awful lot of fun, and I look forward to more scholars taking up these research questions through these methodological lenses, so that it provides more grist for the mill, so to speak. But yeah, there are immense applications of both of these approaches to the Bible, and I think we're just barely scratching the surface.